Erik will turn this on. Erik? Erik? Hello? We've got it. So as I walk in here, I realize about 10% of you in the audience have presented a tripod show. Would you mind raising your hand so we can see? I'd say that's 30%, by the way. So the next thing I want to tell you is that I often take a bus to Seattle. So I go down to the Dome on Puyallup Avenue to catch the bus. And there are 2 public restrooms there. Don't ever go in either one of them. I rarely do. But the other day, about 5 minutes before my bus was going to show up, I went into one of them. And when I tried to lock the door, I could tell the whole locking mechanism wasn't really hooked to anything. But so I thought, well, I better really hurry here. And then when I tried to get out, I couldn't unlock the door. That's the truth. And if you've ever been locked in a public restroom when the bus is about 3 minutes away, really freaks you out. So do not use those restrooms. Okay. So please turn off your phone if you haven't already. I think we've hardly ever been interrupted at Tripod with a ringing phone. So, pardon me? Did you get the bus? I did catch the bus, yes. I started banging on the door, and you think, what good does that do? It's locked from the outside, too. You know, what are they going to do, kick the door in? Gosh, I should tell you another story, but not right now. So I kept fiddling with it and shaking it, and I got it open. Okay. So our first presenter tonight is Jori Adkins. She's born in Guam, which is a possession of the United States, so probably not a threat for an ICE raid this evening. She was raised in Walnut Creek, California, a suburb in the Bay Area. Jori has been involved in construction and building forever. She built her first house in Idaho in 1969 with a previous husband. She was a landscape architect for 35 years. She has been remodeling Tacoma buildings since she moved here from Seattle with her current husband, Rick, in 1997. This was their first and only involvement in a one-day teardown event, the show that you will see next. Jori.
Hi. Okay, so I should we should have some pictures. Oh, so can we dim these lights? Yes. Oh, good, thanks. Because it's a really blown out picture because they wanted to get the inside of the garage here. And so we need to just dim it a little bit. What you can also see is there's a building on the side in the back, and that's the building we're talking about here. It's a little house that had been sitting there empty for a really long time. It was slightly off of its foundation. It's in pretty bad shape. But I put this one to have this picture up here first because I wanted this one to kind of show you what people like us all can do and do to get things done, and that is go live in the garage for a while. So this is Lynn in the garage. In her garage, and that's the little house that we're talking about at that point. And so let me show you some other pictures of this lead in here. So there's the little house again. That's the edge of the garage there. So there's an alley in the back, and it runs up to Job Carr Park, And people would drive around, and so this little house became just a little thing in there in the middle that they would drive around, and it would go around there. And so that's the house. And let's see, there's another shot of it. There's Lynn's pink car. Oh, I have to say, this is 2008, so it's been a while. But we just found all these pictures, and we were like, wow. And then somebody said, it should be a tripod show. So here we are. Okay, so that's, oh, okay. Oh, thanks, Erik. Because some of these pictures were little, they were done with a different camera or a different film or something. This is actually looking from that little house up to the big house where Lynn had her studio in the bottom there, and then she ended up living up above. But she did this thing that we kind of believe too, I think, is that you do the outside of the building first, so it kind of makes the neighborhood feel better, and then you go in and do the inside. Because these types of places were in pretty bad shape. And, but it's really great. It's really beautiful and a wonderful place now. And so see, it says service vehicles only over here on the little house, because the Parks Department used this as a turnaround and a place to park. Then it was on her property, actually, and so obviously that had to end. And so eventually it got greened up into lawn and a nice place to be. So we're back to the little house here. So I just want to take two things that have come up that kind of got us really interested in actually doing this. One of them was the back wall. We decided, we were hearing that it was working, that if you kept a 2x4 of a house, you could call it a remodel. And so we were like, oh, that sounds good. It's a lot cheaper that way, I'll tell you. And so we decided we would try to keep the back wall of this. And and the other interesting thing is that, I could go up and see. Let's see if we can go. So notice that there's an extension out there that way. And in this picture, it's gone. And so I have a feeling that someone was helping Lynn right up front, starting to take this place down. And so that is now gone. And I think that she got, and that's what this is for, Paul Sporich, a really good friend who lives a few houses up the hill and is a person who could really do this kind of work really well and builds a lot of houses and stuff. He helped go in and take the toilets out and all the plumbing and cleaned out things like that on the inside. And so that was pretty ready. And this is the front of the house, just so you can see where it is. And now the changes from 2008 to now is the wistaria's gone, and there's a fig that's right there that grows now. It would cover that whole side of the house, the fig would, today. So here we are. This is the picture that was kind of on the title sheet for today. And you can see already that we've already started, and all of a sudden someone went, we should be taking some photos of this. And so that's why it starts now. So once the photos started to be taken, then all of a sudden we had plenty of them to show. So anyway, so I'll just... Oh, can we make this one a little bit bigger too? Erik? Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Great. It does make it so it's kind of fuzzy, but it was just a great shot looking kind of in a different direction. And so you can see that there's some new buildings that are right on 30th in Old Town up back there. But there's an alley that runs along the back behind there. And you can start to see now that we're taking the outside walls down more and more on the back here. They're about, there was always 5 of us, but most of the time, and then other times there was about 9. So it varied, but most of the time there were 5 of us that were keeping doing this. There's Rick and Claudia.
Was it fairly easy to tear those walls down?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to take all this stuff down. You do have to be careful, because you can hurt yourself. But we've learned to not hurt ourselves, except for maybe 1 or 2 people who are just learning how to do this, like John. Okay. So anyway, so these are just, I'm just gonna show you a few shots here of OSAs. Yeah, I'm always very excited about demolition. I love demolition. So, well, some other things, since we did all this, we just moved on to whatever was next. And we're doing other things. And when we found these photos and decided to use them, we did not recognize some people. And we didn't know who they were. And actually, we don't even know who the photographer was that took these pictures. There's a few of them we kind of do, but we don't know who the person was because we look and there's Lynn's there, Claudia and John are there, Rick and I are there. There's a few other people, and Minnie's there. They didn't have a camera, obviously, because they're in the pictures. So we don't know who is taking the pictures for us. But we've had them since '08, so I should go, I'm gonna go back and say just a couple things, because this picture is showing you, notice behind the woman who we not really sure who it might be, it could be Sue Pavetta, but we're not really sure. You notice that 2x4 on the corner, how it's starting to lean out. And it was starting to lean kind of in the wrong direction, because what we didn't want it to do is lean toward the back, toward the trees in the back, because we didn't want it to take down that wall that we were trying to leave. And so that's when this happened, where we decided to get everybody on a rope, and as it went over, they were pulling as hard as they could, not to stop it or make it change the direction it's gonna go, because you could never do that, but to just shift that toward the front a little bit more, rather than onto that back wall. And so, this is our group trying to do that. Another shot of that, and it's going. And then it's like it got to a point where, it was just going to pull us right over. And so we let it go. There it goes. There it goes. And so then, do we know where it's going to go? Did it take that wall down? And there it's down. And notice the wall back there, the white wall. It's still standing. So we were like, yes, we did it. So it was just enough forward we had undone it from the roof, but it was just enough forward that it just came down. So there we are. And so it's like, all right, so now we can, we did all that work on the inside and get the walls all out. And this is Mindy in the front here with the wheelbarrow going off that direction, and you'll see where she's going in a minute. But we now have the roof to contend with, and it has 2 layers of shingles on it, because you're allowed to put 2 layers on, no more. But so there are 2 roofs basically, and then all the roofing, and then what's left. We did start to put bracing on for that wall, and which seemed to hold. So there we are. So there's Mindy, and she was the one in charge of the dumpster. And so we would wheelbarrow or carry stuff over. She would take it and she would just get it tucked all in there. We got that entire house in this dumpster. It was amazing, just like solid. It was like everything was placed really well in there. It was great. So you can kind of see it's all stacked up really nice. And here comes Claudia with another load. And Rick's, over there putting some more supports for the wall in. And,
Propping that wall up.
yeah, propping it up a little bit more, right, exactly. Yay. Everybody's still smiling. It's good. We're going. And you can see, look in the hills, you can see the hills over in East Tacoma, way over there. There's some sun on this side. You can see it's still in the middle of the day. This is January the 6th. And here, I keep thinking, we were doing that in the cold. But it was a long time ago. It's really amazing. So, all right, so another picture of that. Yay. A little bit. So we're starting to get it cleaned off here, and everybody is getting tired. It's getting tired. Another thing I don't know is, did we ever stop to eat? I don't think we ever stopped to eat. It just too excited. It's getting done. Then these are, I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3 and change the picture because there's a lot of these. So this is the end. We're done. We're through. We've got it all in the dumpster. We're ready to, look at other things. And so I'm just going to run through some pictures here of us and how tired and dirty everybody looked. That's John, Carlton, and Rick, my husband. So these are the stalwart 5 that made it to the end. And Mindy was probably still over putting a little bit of stuff in the dumpster because she did join us. This was an interesting shot. I think we were trying to get lined up with that cut there. But I think whoever was taking the picture next to this person got a better shot. They would have been straight on and they probably would have got it. But it's kind of funny. Whoops, too many. Oops, no, that's just Rick. There we go, you Rick. John got kind of excited a couple times, and he got hit by a couple 2x4s or something.
On side or at home?
And there's Mindy, second one in. Mindy Barker is a pretty well-known muralist, and you'll see her work around town, especially during COVID, a lot of the covering, and she's done quite a bit of work. So it's kind of fun. And there's that wall. So then the contractor comes in, and we realized, I didn't get to show you that, but the foundation was built of cinder blocks, except they were what they call half CMU units. They were only 4 inches wide, and then the 8 this way and the 12 this way, or whatever they are. And the building was sitting just sort of off, and they were all starting to tip over and fall out. So they actually built a new foundation for the whole thing. But the wall's still there. You'll notice that there's some 2x6s underneath. So obviously they kind of then poured underneath it and then set it back down. It's so interesting how you can get away with this. Anyway, so you can see kind of the structure. And there's the contractors starting out. And it's going to be a 2x2, a duplex, in a sense, a duplex. And then I'm not sure why the city wouldn't let you have it be a duplex. What was?
Zoning.
Zone commercial?
No.
It wasn't zoned commercial?
Single family.
Oh, just one house? One family?
Yes.
Today that wouldn't be a problem probably. You'd make an ADU unit.
That's why I put 2 doors in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, well, I think the future may be there. So when they pretty much got done with the house, then Lynn came back and she built the porches off the side and the front with the help of her brother, Greg. There's Greg. And that's the little house. And we didn't put a picture in here of it today. It's very cute. There's little planting beds all around it, and it's very sweet. So, okay, I think that's my last picture. And if I go, yeah, that's the first. Anyway, so that's that.
Questions?
Where's the wall?
Oh, they did actually. They started building the walls. They built them around like that, and they got to that, and they said, what do we do? And Lynn goes, take the wall down. Oh, that, okay. And they just built the walls and went on up. And for some reason, nobody ever noticed.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
First one is, it's clearly not OSHA-approved working conditions there. I was curious, you had a few things holding up this whole top part, and were you concerned about that collapsing, and did you ever consider starting at the top and moving it down?
Oh, you mean the 2x4s holding
Yeah,
in the center of the
yeah,
building?
Yeah, walking underneath with just
Yeah.
two sticks holding up.
It looks more vulnerable.
Yeah, it does look a lot more vulnerable than it is. It's amazing what will hold, especially when you're talking about stick. Because, you know, the whole thing in an earthquake, it's amazing how it'll look like nothing is.
Trees are pretty strong, I guess.
Trees are pretty strong.
So my other question is, why is a remodel cheaper than
Starting over?
starting over?
I think it partially has to do with the city zoning and codes, what you have to do if you're starting fresh compared to
Yeah.
a remodel.
Remodel, you have to, you don't have to obey the ADA rules. So, you know, guardrails and that kind of stuff kind of get overlooked to some degree, so,
Or at least the heights.
yeah.
Stairs well, except they are doing that, but I can think of some around town, that new, what's it called, the Lydia, the one downtown. They actually made them rip out all the stairs in that building. It was 10 stories. This is the Washington building. And made them put in this new stairs for 1/2 an inch per stair.
But that was a commercial situation. If it's a home remodel, they wouldn't have had you take the stairs out, because they figure you're gonna live with it as is. Then when you go to sell it, that's the problem. The inspection might come up and say, well, these stairs aren't good.
Well, you know how you get around that one?
And it is?
You just say, yes, very good, I'm sorry. Hear what you said, but yes, you're right. You don't have to have an inspection if you do as is.
Right.
There's no inspection. You just take it like it is. I mean, you may not get as, you know, all the money you wanted, but to me, it makes life a lot easier for everybody. Oh, yes, yes, Ann.
Somebody else around me is asking the same question. You don't start and take the roof off first?
No, because why go up and do that? You know, when you can get it down on the ground.
Oh, I see.
Maybe we didn't have any ladders.
We had ladders. We didn't use any ladders.
Well, there is
No.
a ladder in the edge of one of those
Oh,
pictures, so I lied.
That's remarkable then, tearing it down pretty much without.
Yeah,
We're not for hire, by the way.
not now at least.
Terry, let me give you the microphone.
Did I use all my time?
No,
I have one.
A person living in a house now.
I had, there,
Terry,
that's, oh,
Terry.
Turn on the mic.
oh, I see, I'm getting another one.
You just push it forward. Push it in to get close.
Hi, Jori. I just wanted to add a little interesting story. I had someone in San Francisco purchase a vintage house there, right in the center of San Francisco. It was actually on preservation lists. And, but it was so old when he bought it, it still had an outhouse. And it was 3-story place. And he was told the same thing. He only had to leave 1 2x4 to meet not only the building codes, but to meet preservation rights on that house. So he turned that house into a 3-story mega mansion, as modern as you've ever seen anywhere, with whole walls that slid open, and it was insane. But that, all it was, he just had to have that 1 2x4.
The whole thing sounds very suspect.
any more questions? Sure, go ahead.
I'm not sure how I can do this. Eric, can I show that other little video?
The video?
I think it was right at the end of this. I thought it was on there still.
Oh, I don't know if it's on there.
Hang on. Let me see where it is.
This, Lynn did a lot of things every year. Every year she's ever been here, she's done a lot of things. It's been amazing, but this year that we did this, that same year, I mean, there were many projects, but one of them was one that we happened to film or took pictures of, and we made into a little film that we showed at a tripod. One was down at Madera's.
I only copied the slides, I didn't see the video.
Oh, okay, so we won't show it.
If you want to bring your flash drive up here, I can show the video later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think everybody here knows that these presentations are saved on YouTube. So about a week after tonight, you can look at these or tell people you know that we're really sorry they missed it tonight to go look. So our next presenter is Sharon Styer. Oops, sorry. 8 years ago, Sharon combined her skills with photography, sewing, embroidery, and storytelling into multimedia collages. Each piece incorporates one or more of these skills. Sometimes photography and sewing, sometimes collage, embroidery, and beading. Always there is a story being told, and always there is a compelling title, as you will see. Sharon's work has been represented by Proctor Art Gallery Tacoma since 2020. Sharon? Sharon had an accident at Hawaii.
No, I'm gonna go
I'll tell you about it.
Yep. There we go. Thank you. Let me grip this. Yes, I broke my femur like 10 months ago, so I'm still healing. So getting there. I'm starting to walk with the cane, so that's really good. So let me see. Let me grab one of these guys. All right, so I decided to start off with Lynn. I've done a couple collages with Lynn because she did these really funny postcards a few years ago. All of them seem to be on rollerblades. So this one is called Bad Habits. And this one I just did. And this one is Ed Hopper background. I really like Edward Hopper's work quite a bit. And so there's Lynn again. And this one is just because of politics these days. Take me back to when dreams were bigger than fears, you know. And then there's so many ways to go with collage. So here I decided to do embroidery. So this is a photo I took at Wright Park and then embroidered all over it. And this one's just called Wild Nights Are Calling. And then this one, this is from Icicle Creek in Leavenworth, photo I took. And I used my sewing machine on this one. So that was kind of interesting to puncture the photo. And then this one started all fresh, so collage. And then this one is called Whoever Took My Antidepressants, I Hope You're Happy. So that was with embroidery over it. And then this one, kind of just playing around pointillism. This one is Surratt Visits Kincaid at his seaside cottage. And then I did one more. And then, oops, I know sometimes they look so pixelated on here. So this is Surratt Visits Mount Rainier. And then I went forward with torn paper. So then I just tear, well, this one's cut, but I just wanted to just do classic collage with torn paper. And then this one is called, Do We Have to Keep Every Promise We Make? And then this one again, just, trying landscapes. I get very attracted to them. So that was really interesting to try to recreate everything with paper. And this one is, at some point you will just have to learn to let go. This one's really fun. This one, is just called High Tide, Low Tide, I'm by your side. And this is from a very classic old painting called The Fortune Teller, where both of their faces were there, but their faces were just so good, they just had eyes for each other. And then her dress, it took me like 10 times. It was like throwing clothes on the floor when you can't find anything to wear. Just trying to find a dress that would work for her. But I think she's fun now. This one skipped. Okay, this one skipped. I had lost one in there. Well, let me go back. No, it did. I can't find it there. This one was really good. This was a first to try to capture a face with the paper. I really like the look on her face. It's kind of panicked in some ways. It's like, I don't think I want to live forever. I can hardly stay at a party past 10. And then Frida, I decided to try a really classic one because I'm at the gallery and Frida's sell, so I was being really awful and decided to do one that would sell, and of course it has not sold. But this one I used flowers from my garden, so I pressed flowers, so we have flowers all scattered throughout and some metal jewelry for her. This one, again, very complicated little bee in there. I know I was going to go back. I forgot to change both of these photos because they really pixelated, and I forgot to go back and change them out. But this one is called Self-Medication Never Ends. And then when I was young, I always wanted to be someone. Now I realize I should have been more specific. I think that's kind of it on the torn paper. So I'm doing another one right now I like. So, and now we move into, women are definitely a theme with me. And so I went into some old Vogue magazines. And so this started as a black and white photograph. And I was practicing color combinations. And then I painted her robe and beaded and wings. And this one's called, I haven't the slightest idea how to change someone, but I keep a list just in case I figure it out. And here we go. And this is a series, and I've made 3 of them so far. And it's called Make Peace with All the Women You Once Were, for they are the bones of the throne you sit on now. And so this is like 13. Being 13, where you just like think you're styling with these, rhinestone glasses, near, beads. And so this one I found a photograph and I tried watercoloring the back. And then her outfit is all flowers. So hydrangeas, irises. So that's Caitlin. This is Nanette. Again, I meant to change his photo out too. It's kind of bled out. But I really like this one. I thought it was so pretty. So her dress is made out of lilies and astromerias and pear blossoms. And then this one I just did. This one's called Ruby. And so this is pressed tulips and lilacs and irises and hydrangeas. The crone will come next. Try that. Oops, is this one? And then this one, I use photographs that I've taken. So this is the stairway that leads to the bell tower of First Presbyterian Church and Stadium. So I used to be able to go up to all of the bell towers in town, and I really always loved the creepiness of the stairway. So I found something that had that eerie quality, and her dress is made of feathers and her earrings. And what's she called? Sometimes the things we think are lost are only hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. And then this one again, Audubon bird, lovely head, lots of beads. This one is, I say no worries, even when I have worries. And this one, this is the ginkgo tree in Wright Park. And this one is We All Fall Short of Grace. So with feathers on the head and old grizzly face. This one I did when I was in rehab. I was in rehab for 3 weeks. I do not recommend it. It's weird at night, the calls, the cries. Oh my God, just lots of stories from that one. And so I made this one there. And this is called Strength is What You Gain from the Madness You Survive. And then this one is, I tried shutting up before. It's just not for me. And this one I did a lot of pastels, oil pastels, and then feather in her hair. And then this one is, if you think you can earn my forgiveness by offering me snacks, well, you are absolutely correct. So, and this is, the bird head is a drawing by the writer Amy Tan. She's just got a current book coming out right now, actually, of all her birds that she's drawn. So I decided to put that in. Let's see, let me. And then this one was really, it was intricate. It was really hard to get those 3 birds lined up and her arm out there and just all fit the bird heads there. And this one is, it takes a special kind of person to wake up early and still be late. Okay, and then this one, oops, this one jumped ahead. Let me find this one. I don't know why this one. Strange. Well, this one, I know the title to this one, though I'm not seeing it on here. It's like, I don't know what people's interest in ancestry is. Isn't knowing your own family enough? I was so happy when I found that kind of rabbit head to fit on that green dress. It just went perfectly with it. Let me kind of find this because we're out of sync for some reason. This is like, I'm sure if you can't sing, you can whistle. Something like that, the music lesson. Oh, let me just, bear with me if I can just find my place on here. Okay, I'm back again. Oops. Here we go. This one was, we use this as a title. I was going to give up all my bad habits, but then I realized no one likes a quitter. And this face is like, she was an actress in Tacoma. I got the image down on Broadway at the antique store, and I think it's like Florence Deschon. She was an actress here. She made it really big at the Paramount. Then she went down to LA, and her career ended. But I thought she had a great face. And this one, if I observed all the rules, I'd never get anywhere. So Brie Larson, just, this is, Kehinde Wiley. I think it's always really fun how he does his portraits with the really strong flowers all around. So this was my attempt at that, just to kind of play with that idea. And then this one, sometimes it takes me all day to get nothing done. This one, if being hard on yourself worked, it would have worked by now. Here's, and then this is just what keeps us from seeing the obvious. This was a theme wall. I'm at Proctor Art Gallery, and there's theme walls that come up, and this was folk tales. And this one is, underneath my outside face, there's a face that none can see. A little less smiley, a little less sure, but a whole lot more like me. And I just felt, we're at this place where so many people are doing plastic surgery and there's such a facade going on. And it just goes in such an ironic moment because that's the reflection of the woman behind. Very nice looking woman. And yet you just go through all these doodads to gussy up, to go out in public, and you end up looking so odd. The face is a great Japanese artist, that Toshiki Murakami. He just does such great comic faces. It was just really fun to work with that one. And then we're going to work on, okay. Okay, this one is called, I've learned so much from my mistakes that I've decided to make some more. So I was given a book of French fashion, so I started with the dress, and then I found this two-headed woman, which is an ad for gin, and so it had limes and cucumbers dangling off of her head, so I added flowers, and then I gather up old brooches and stuff, so that's her necklace, and then I gave her an animal, and it just kind of grew from there. I thought she was really kind of fun. And then, again, sometimes I'll go into old Vogue magazines, just start with the black and white one. I was just trying something, just painting, just plain patterns on here. And this one is, I'm sorry, but I'm not apologizing anymore. And then this one was just really, this is our bridge here. And I had this cover from a 1938 Bazaar magazine. And it was just, I don't know, I was just very captured by the image. It's very, people say it's Maryland, but it was just, I just went, well, I'm just going to go with it. And this one is, would unlocking my heart be worth the risk? And it came out really nice. It's very pretty. Again, these are a few Tacoma ones where I used some photographs of mine. So this is down in the Tide Flats. Actually, I think I went with you, Scott, on this one. So I took this photo, and it was in some shows. And then Mad Hat Tea had a show many years ago that was called The Amazing Show. So you had to put a maze in it. So I embroidered a maze. And then since I'm at Proctor Gallery, which is all collages, I added all these people to it. So it's an amazing life full of trials and joys. So, and then one more. This is the tunnel at Ruston. And this is called You Know How to Honk, Don't You? And then one more of Tacoma here. And that's the homies of the 253. And then now we're just going into kind of, I use classic paintings sometimes, so Toulouse-Lautrec. So I added, the front woman and all the faces, and that was really fun. Let's dance the night away. And then I just did Velikaz. This is called Embrace Your Inner Darkness. Just, I don't know why goth came out, but the faces worked, so I went with it. This one is called I Am Way Past Mending My Ways. So. And then just octopus with the fish. The fish have faces on them, some of them, which was really kind of fun to do. This one, it's better to be lucky than just about anything else in the world. And then this one is pretty much all pastels in the background. And it's called, I try to be a little ray of sunshine, but people keep testing me. Lots of pressed flowers from my garden all around. This one is like, why is everything so complicated? I don't know. Edward Hopper again, just kind of played around with that one. This one was really complex. It was a really large collage, and I had just taken a class where it was combining 3 images. You just print up 3 identical images, and you lay them on top of each other, and then you peel back some of it so you can see the layers underneath. So the scales on this were really cool because they were very live, and you could see layers underneath with this one. This is, I don't get nearly enough credit for the things I don't say. Oops, did I go backwards? And then on a quiet day, you can hear the trees breathing. I don't know, this one just kind of popped together. It was kind of fun, it just worked. And then this was just recently, again, I combined 3 images with the deer, just kind of playing around with that, a photo I had taken up at Lake Crescent. And then, oops, was there one more in there? Okay, and this one is, finally, everyone has taken a photo of everything. And that's it, guys. Okay, questions, please?
What are your sizes?
They vary. I think the largest is 20 by 25 is how far I go. A lot by 11 by 14 is a really common size for me. Every once in a while I'll do little ones, you know, showing your work at a gallery, you definitely start merchandising your ideas. So sometimes I'll do little small ones. But you know, 11 by 14 is really common for me.
And what does your studio look like? You've got all this
a
different
mess.
supplies. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah.
I have one large desk that I have my computer and 2 different printers and a scanner. So I have that. And then I have another desk to the side that is where I make the collages. And then I have bookshelves over here that have, I mostly work from art books. That's mostly what I tear apart. So I have art books, and then I have a rack that has like art magazines. So I do that. Thank you.
Do you, when you come home each day, do you find stacks of books and magazines on your doorstep?
I do not. That would be nice. I do not. Sometimes. Just so everybody knows, I do not like glossy magazines. I don't. The material is really cheap. You can't glue it. It wrinkles. It's got to be really good, you know, material, or I just will recycle
Good to know. We'll start copying your work. No, we can't. Questions?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Are these all on photographic paper then?
Are they all what?
Are they all on photographic paper that?
No. Some of them, yes, they are, but no, I use, well, a lot of them are. A lot of times I will print them up myself. So I'm very drawn towards more matte paper, so it's heavier. And then I always dry mount it onto a mat board, so it's very solid in there. You know, you have to be just careful of wrinkling and things tearing up. And again, the influence of having your work in a gallery all the time is you do not want a customer coming back saying, you know, the stuff is peeled up. I don't want to go down that road. Hey, Mary.
So what I wondered is, with the flowers, how do you preserve them and make them be lasting? Just, yeah.
I have this Japanese microwave press. So, you know, I'll just take the flowers fresh and put them in there, and it only takes like 3 minutes in the microwave. You have to switch it 3 different times. And then I put it into like archival paper. I press it in there and I just keep it in a little case. And I have flowers from like 5 years ago now. And, you know, most of the colors are really good. There are some like lilies and certain things will fade into that kind of ochre color, which is actually kind of pretty. But they stay. I did one that was, I thought it was really cool, but nobody else does. But so I have it at home. And the colors have really stayed because what I put on top of it is I have, again, an archival PVA glue. So I coat the entire thing. I do the same with the cut papers wherever there's a lot of edges or anything that can peel up. And then at the end, I coat the whole thing with glue so it is just solid. Thank you for asking.
Anybody else?
All right, you guys, thank you.
Sharon has some cards up here on the piano that are for sale,
Oh, yeah, I've got some.
and some other items.
I have some magnets. I made some magnets of the work. They're really kind of fun. And cards, if you're interested.
wanted to thank Erik, our tech, who figures out where to put the camera so whoever's presenting can be seen on YouTube, and for lowering the lights each time, and all this stuff we're not even aware of. So next up is Bob Haft, who was born before the mid-20th century and was raised in Walla Walla. Those two facts in themselves should be sufficient to explain the surrealistic nature of some of his work. He attended WSU, where he received a BA in psychology with the intention of going to medical school. Unfortunately, however, while still an undergraduate, he participated in a study abroad program in southern France, where he was utterly seduced by the art that he saw there. Subsequently, upon failing to get into medical school, he went back to school and received an MFA in photography, also from WSU. Upon finishing his graduate degree, he worked in the San Francisco Bay Area for 4 years at Diablo Valley College before being hired at Evergreen State College, where he taught photography and art history for 40 years before retiring in 2019. His marriage to Deborah Fausti in 1972 resulted in the production of 3 of his favorite photographic subjects, his children, whom you will see included in some of the images shown tonight. He has successfully been exhibiting his work since 1975, and his pieces are included in the collections of several school districts throughout the state, the Group Health Cooperative in Seattle and Olympia, and the Portland Art Museum. In 2008, he was inducted into the Company of Musketeers of Armagnac. Bob, could you correct my French, please?
Armagnac, that's fine.
Okay. A French society that celebrates the arts and the tradition of the original Musketeers. His photos have won both national and international awards, and they have been featured in exhibitions in England, France, Italy, Poland, and South Korea, but never Walla Walla. Bob.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. And a special thank you to Lynn for inviting me here. It's always nice to be able to talk about one's work, and it's especially nice to have an audience after 45 years of teaching whose first thought isn't, is this going to be on the test? Well, I hope that isn't your first thought. There will be a quiz afterwards, but it won't affect your final grade at all. So before I begin, I'd just like to say a word about Lynn's introductory remark about the Mousquetaires d'Armagnac, which is a society I was inducted into. And I've never told that to anybody before, really. It's not something I broadcast, but the only reason I mention it tonight was in the past 8 months here now, I've been thinking a lot about their credo, all for one and one for all, which I think is the watchword of hallmark of all artists everywhere. It should be. And I don't care if you're a kid doing finger painting or David Hockney. When you're making art, you're doing something that's anti-terrorist, anti-fascist, and anti-Trump. And I'm proud to be a member of that society. So, say a little bit about my background. That's me on the right in a much earlier stage of development. And I think if you can bring these lights down, that would help. Yeah, I think you can see, look on my face, keen intelligence and an intense mistrust of authority figures, which is a trait I've managed to hold on to my entire life. But just to keep my ego in check, I like to show this image, which is a family portrait done by my youngest daughter when she was in first grade, I think. And that's her, Annalise, the largest, happiest person in the group. There's Debbie, her mom, also quite happy. Her elder sister, Nika, not so happy. Her brother, Rembrandt. And then there are these other figures and me, labeled nobodies. And just sort of remind me that although I'm the star of my own life, I figure about this much into most other people. My first venture into photography didn't happen until pretty late in life. I was a junior in college, and as Lynn mentioned, I got to study abroad in Avignon, France, and I began taking pictures semi-seriously. That experience was like the beginning of Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. The best part being that I was introduced to French culture and art at a very impressionable age. And the worst part was I developed a terminal case of wanderlust, from which I've never quite recovered. I love traveling, and that did it for me. So whenever I was abroad, I took pictures and tried to document what I saw. And I realized, though, quite early in my career that if you just went out and looked for something to inspire you, you were never going to find it. But if you had a theme or a series that you were working in, you would find it over and over and over. It just presented itself to me. So the first one that I latched onto was just these signs that I thought were amusing. And they were more like one-line jokes than anything. Although this one was sort of a self-portrait, a revelatory self-portrait, where this is exactly how I felt, you know. People honestly telling you, you know, not to be so presumptuous as to being one of the finest artists, but, you know, maybe Bob used the back door over there. So I switched to a more serious subject, which was the School of Veterinary Medicine at WSU, where I was going to school. And quite literally, I went there every day for an entire year, and they accepted me as just part of the background there, and allowed me into places that I probably shouldn't have gone. But these guys were so generous, both with their time, and it was obvious their care and love for the animals was just over the top. And my father had been a chest surgeon, and again, I was sort of headed toward medical school, and thankfully didn't make it. But I really responded to these guys and the way they felt about the animals and the way they cared for them. And there were things that were funny, too, you know, that you just don't expect. And like all good things, my time in graduate school had to come to an end, and I felt sort of like these two cows seeing their future with no real great prospects ahead. And so I was booted out of graduate school and went down to the Bay Area, and I'm glad to hear that Joy was from Walnut Creek, because I worked and taught down there for 4 years at Diablo Valley College. And I started taking pictures of animals down there that I saw. They were a lot different than the ones in vet school, and that didn't go very far. So I started trying to take wedding photographs with animals, but my vision didn't always coincide with that of the bride and groom, so I had to quickly abandon that. And I hit upon the idea of photographing classical statuary because I was teaching art history, and I fell in love with Greek sculpture. So this is from a long series called Greek to Me, and you would find these things everywhere. I mean, literally again, if I had gone and looked for them, I know they wouldn't have presented themselves. But once I saw one, I saw them just everywhere, in schools, in churches, in Les Schwab tire shops. I mean, just the weirdest places. But I did this for a number of years, and I was quite serious about it, but it quickly devolved, as a lot of my work does, into looking at, kitsch sculpture, and this is called Our Lady of the Frogs. And having been raised Catholic, I'm used to a lot of biblical stories that most of you probably don't know, but this series kind of came to an abrupt end. And so I took the advice that's usually given to beginning writers, which is write about what you know. And by this time I had a couple of kids, and what I knew best, probably except for my wife, knowledge of these, was my own two kids. And so I started taking pictures of them, but it took a real whap up the side of the head to get this to happen. So originally I was taking a picture of that wall because the sun was setting in a late summer evening, and it illuminated the wall in a way that I'd never seen. It looked like a lunar landscape. So if you hold your thumb up and you can blot out my son there, you'll see what a beautiful photograph I was trying to make, and how he was ruining it by coming standing right here in front of the light. So one of my colleagues, I admitted to him, I said, Paul, I don't think this is fair, taking pictures of your kids and calling it art. And he said, sure, go for it. So with his permission, I did. And I just started following my kids everywhere. And thankfully, because I was always in front of them with the camera, they got used to my presence. They never learned to pose. And they let me into their inner life and experiences that they were having. And so some of these studies were like that very first one, just beautiful studies of light and shadow. Some were about the timeless nature of childhood when you're a kid, the endless sense of time that you have when you're a kid. And division of labor in this case, too. And then some of them were just about getting me back in touch with how intense an emotional state is when you are a kid, how hard play can be, and how important play can be. And this photograph, I took my kids to Walla Walla, and I so wanted them to see this barn that my dad had that I loved when I was a kid. And this was their response, this sort of catatonic stupor. And once I saw this, I thought, oh yeah, that barn used to scare the shit out of me too. And I had totally forgotten that. So juggling two balls isn't very interesting or exciting for an audience to watch, but 3 is a really good number. And so with my wife's help, I was able to create another one of these photogenic characters. And after that, my work really found solid footing. And it seemed like I would spend 8 or 10 hours at work teaching, come home and go to work, finally as a visual artist. And my kids were the primary subject. And this is called Impromptu Ballet Sunday Morning. And one of my favorite pieces of music at the time was El Paso by Marty Robbins. I hope you all know that. My kids fell in love with it, and they would act it out. So this is them recreating El Paso. Yeah, this is called Stormy Weather. So I'll just run through a bunch of these now and try not to go over my time. But some of them I'll stop because there are some pretty good stories that occur with some of them. we went to the store, and this little bitty store we live close to, and my wife said, okay, kids, you can each pick out one gift. And, you know, it was a cheesy little store. There wasn't much there. So my one daughter in the back there picks out this little kind of pellet gun with these little ducks that she put out. I can't remember what my son picked, but he was very disappointed that he didn't get the gun, and then my other daughter with those bubbles. And so this is kind of hard, but when they were growing up, my wife and I had this no gun rule. No, nothing. Well, the kids would go like this, or they'd pick up a stick. It doesn't matter, you know, our culture is so just awash with it. It's hard to get away with. So I had a big show once in Seattle with about 50 of these photographs. And, you know, you put a book up and the people are coming to write their comments. And God, half the comments were, how dare you let your kids play with guns, you know, and be naked, because we lived in the country. We didn't have a whole lot, didn't have any neighbors that could see us. My kids were constantly shedding their clothes. This is called Attitudes and Latitudes. This is If the Shoe Fits. Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, this is one of those examples where we're at the beach and my daughter just sheds her swimming suit, so I'm running after her as I'm taking this photograph, saying, no, you can't, not here, this is not proper. Oh, and this one, this does require a tale. It was once in a July afternoon, and I come home from teaching, and Debbie's there, and she grabbed the car keys from me and said, it's your turn, and she got in the car and left. And I could hear kids, but I couldn't see them, so I went, kids. Well, they'd found a bag of charcoal briquettes and the hose, and they filled the bag with water and then took the charcoal out and realized they could rub it all over their bodies. So this to me was like being a National Geographic photographer, you know, happening upon this tribe of pygmy women who smeared their bodies with paint, and they were just singing. They were, you know, like in another world. Oh, and my parenting style was I took 3 rolls of film and then said, now clean that up and don't you ever do that again.
And then you win an award for the picture.
Mother's Day. This is another one. You guys are such a great audience. I've had people who, I had the Amnesty International call me about this one. Honest to God, I came home one day and I see this. I'm shocked. She's standing in a wagon, a rope around her neck. The other kids are out in front of her fighting with swords. I jumped out and took 3 photos and then said, don't you do that again. And some students at the Evergreen State College saw this and liked it and said, can we use that on the cover of a literary magazine we're putting out? Sure, why not? I don't care. 2 weeks later, I get this call, Amnesty International. And this guy is just reading me the riot act, and I have no clue. I literally have no clue what he's talking about. I thought maybe he'd gotten the wrong number. And then he said, we've seen the photo, and it kind of clicked. And I went, oh, okay. And I said, do you have children? No. I said, well, you're well-intentioned but sadly misinformed. And I hung up on Amnesty International. I like this one. adjustments. And some of them are just, you know, again, kiddom is a wonderful place to be and to spend time as an adult, even vicariously taking part in it. There's another one. I come home and Debbie said, you know, the kids are jumping on the roof. Off the roof, you have to stop them. Well, I went up and jumped off, and it was okay, so I let them go ahead. There's a trampoline down there that she's landing on.
Just as soon as I take their picture,
Oh, yeah, I like this one a lot. Again, the inner lives of children is written all over their face. You know, they don't hide their emotions at all, really. And so I feel very privileged to have been able to see that and allow them to let me photograph it, again, without their caring or trying to cover up or pose or anything. And this is that same daughter. It's always gratifying as a parent to have at least one of your children follow in your footsteps and find stupid things just as fun as I do. These big metal cows are on between Olympia and Shelton, and they've been there for years, and I just think they're a hoot. So, in addition to taking photos, I've tried to keep my hand in other things. You know, you can't just devote yourself entirely to one idea. So I continually photograph cats, and my kids were constantly bringing them home. That was another thing. And, you know, God, they're just such wonderful little critters. And then I've tried to document two real important events in Olympia that happen annually. The first of these is called Lake Fair, which is this sleazy carnival. I mean, it's a Seattle's, or it's Olympia's answer to a sea fair. But it's just awful. And so I go there every year and photograph and document it because I like it so much. And the other one is something called the Pet Parade, which has been going on for over 80 years in Olympia. I think that's a pretty neat deal. And it's a visual cornucopia. The kids are invited to participate in some thematic event where they're supposed to dress up and dress their pets up according to some theme, and then they're paraded through town. But prior to that, it's like 2 hours before they get to parade, you know, where they have to do the judging. And the kids and the animals get pretty testy after a little bit, and that's when the best photographs happen. So I've also, whenever I travel, I keep photographing things that I find visually amusing. And this is an actual building in a little town called Sopot in Poland. And I just thought, what a wonderful conceit, you know, to erect something like that. So some guy who was coming home drunk would think everything was fine. You know? But COVID and retirement really have slowed me down. And these last three images are what I've been working on lately. And they look initially, I think, like quite a departure from what I'm used to doing. But I've always been concerned with the layering of information and patterning. And so I've been going to this nature preserve not far from our house where there's a wonderful beaver pond and photographing the trees there and the water lilies and how they change over the course of a year. And in these last three, I think I'm more or less channeling a lot of the art history that I taught for years. So it felt like Monet when I made a certain photograph, or Gustav Klimt or something like that. But that's it. So thank you for coming, and thank you for this. I appreciate it. Any questions at all? Yeah.
What do your kids now think of these photos as adults?
You know, that's a good question. One daughter, the one who's in the inner tube there, that picture is in the Portland Art Museum. And she was living in Portland and happened to go down and see it. Didn't realize it was there. And that made her feel pretty good about herself. So I think they like that, but they don't say too much really about the work. That's a good question. I should.
It's just like life to them, oh yeah.
Yeah, his dad doing whatever he does.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
You commented on how, I forget who called you about your daughter tied up, and had you gotten other responses to kids with their clothes off? And Sally Mann went through all of that.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, by the way, your work, in my opinion, is better than her work of her children. It was incredibly beautiful work. But have you ever met Sally? That was my question.
No, and I was totally unaware of her work until pretty late in my career. The people who influenced me, probably the largest, was a French photographer named Jacques-Henri Lartigue, who was not a photographer, but he kept photo books of his life and his family. And those photos, personal histories, are much more interesting to me than history about World War II or anything like that. And he wasn't discovered until he was late in his 70s. He was a painter most of the time. So I feel like a late bloomer myself, and I'm glad to see there's some others of you in the same category here. But yeah, I was influenced by just this one guy who took pictures of his family, put them with little black squares, in a photo album somewhere. And then they were discovered when he was in his late 70s. And a great book is called Diary of the Century. It's just amazingly good if you're interested.
Bob, didn't you get a photographic award within the last couple of days?
I did. I received this, there was an honorable mention award in this photo competition, I guess. But they said that people from 80 different countries had submitted work. And so I felt pretty good about that.
Are there any more questions?
Are you switching to color? Are you switching to color?
I sort of had to make that switch when I was teaching. I was a holdout against digital photography because traditional black and white film was what I cut my teeth on. Digital was really hard, and now still, when I'm out photographing, I have to think, okay, there's color out there. I'm not seeing things in black and white because it's a totally different mindset. Yeah, I'm interested in your stuff too. I'd like to see your students.
Certainly, I would love that.
So I believe July 18th is the next tripod. And there's an organization called WOW in New Zealand, and I believe it stands for World of Wearable Art. And two artist friends of mine are nuts about that show. It is the most outrageous wearable art you can even imagine, and they're willing to do a show of that next month. And then also next month, and I don't know exactly who will present it, maybe Becky, about 10 or 12 Tacoma artists made a giant puppet of Trump for the No Kings protest on the 14th. Pardon me?
Photographs of it if you need it.
Okay, good to know. Well, so far what we've got is process shots of the making of the puppet. So Becky, why don't you talk to Davis and see if he has some images from that day where you guys showed up at the protests. And then the third show I'd like to do together with those two shows is Procession of the Species in Olympia. if somebody has contact of somebody that would present some of those images from the parades, even over the years, that would be great, because I think that would be a really good addition to those 2 other shows. Great. Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for coming tonight. See you, I believe it's July 18th, 3rd Friday. Thanks.